The Conservation Partnership Plan between Bass Pro Shops and the Lewis and Clark Discovery Expedition of St. Charles, Missouri is the result of several recent conversations as well as years of visions for both groups. The mission of the Lewis and Clark Discovery Expedition of St. Charles is to provide experiences of the history and the culture and conservation of Lewis and Clark during the period of 1803 to 1806, as well as what that means to us today. The vision of DSEC is to become that primary resource to educate youth and adults in this nation as well as around the world. Part of this would be to have a Lewis and Clark Center for Interpretive Studies that would include expansion of the museum, of the library, as well as new exhibits. Background on the Lewis and Clark is that it has been around for over 20 years as a successful group to educate the public, both children, school groups, and adults. There is a fleet of historic boats that are now in the best condition ever because they have been used in movies and in film documentaries, including the HBO movie. We have a membership of over 200 reenactors and supporters, and a new foundation, the Discovery Expedition of St. Charles, Missouri, that we expect to be a vehicle for us to have that sustainable income that's needed. The goals for the future are to develop a traveling museum for the history and conservation of Lewis and Clark, and also a short film series. We know that there are many ways that these could be used. In tie-ins to Bass Pro, they could be used at all the Bass Pro events. They could also have the short film series that would be in the Lewis and Clark exhibit in the WOW Museum. And this would cover all the many things that Lewis and Clark did on their journeys and could duplicate some of the paintings by Fritz in the museum. We've had the past key performance indicators focused on the museum visitors and the event visitors. And while these have been important, and we can document visitors from all 50 states and 43 foreign countries, we know that there are other things that we want to count as our future performance indicators. These include the impact, and the way that we want to impact the future is through distance learning that we know can be more scalable than our present model of events and the museum visitors. In addition to the current museum, we would have an expansion of the traveling museum, and we would also increase our living history events. Currently, our target markets include many groups such as travel groups, school groups, and history aficionados. We want to increase that as well to include educators, parents, sportsman groups, church groups, and social media groups such as Meetup. We also have begun a strategic partnership campaign where we feel that the right partners will help us to expand and grow. This includes Bass Pro, the Lewis and Clark Trail Heritage Foundation, the National Park Service, and the Falls of the Ohio Museum and Interpretive Center. We want organizations that share our common goals, such as education of children and adults and immersion experiences for them, and increasing the audience exposure. In our education model of distance learning, we look at a focus on videos that will express the life and the skills needed for Lewis and Clark to be successful. We also look at this as being video conferencing that could be supported by specimen and sample kits that are loaned to teachers for class use. This would give them that hands-on experience as well. And then we would develop worksheets and teacher notes and topic extension suggestions such as WOW field trips or visits to the Lewis and Clark Museum. We're also looking at immersion experiences for adults and children. This would include some Wolf Schools program expansion, wild field trips include to the distance learning, and festival and event experiences that would add on to our show and tell version that we have today. In addition, we see immersion experiences for kids at the Lewis and Clark Adventure of WOW. We also see a Lewis and Clark survivor training type experience for adult recruits. These would take place throughout the Midwest, and we have the first one planned for January 4th and 5th, 2020 at Camp Du Bois. We would also want to increase our audience exposure, and this would be through strategic partner co-branding. With Bass Pro, it would be at different store events, their base camp events, as well as we would want to market to new groups and cross-promote other opportunities at our current and future events. Through this, we could also be building our email list and engage these audiences with a drip marketing campaign. So where we need help for developing all these are in our distance learning, in the development of the components, the films, the kits, the worksheets, the teacher notes. We also need some assistance with the 9 Young Men from Kentucky film short that will be created for the Falls of the Ohio Interpretive Center. We want an additional 5 film shorts that could be based on the Charles Fritz paintings and make those come to life in the WOW Museum. And we also want the marketing campaign for the distance learning and to know what is needed by those educators, by the school districts, and the after-school programs so that they are geared toward having this as a part of their enrichment programs. In immersion experiences, we look for partnership with the WOW program, as well as hosting, as we mentioned, the survivor type training for recruits. This would be a series of primitive life skill events that would take place across the Midwest and then expand. In broadening the audience exposure, we look for demos at stores and using the publicity of the stores in the WOW Museum, and also increasing our youth audience. We also look to do this through engagement with the Scout program, holding more outdoor days near the store locations, and also tying into the Missouri History Month for some free publicity. We also fear that there are some additional opportunities for Race for the Rivers, where we can have events in the parking lots of stores along the course, as well as have river reenactments. And we would want to utilize the Bass Pro website and related social media for the events where we're working together. And then, of course, continue the drip marketing campaign. With all this, we feel like there is a real opportunity that this vision can become a reality, and we look forward to working together. Thank you.